Welcome, gang, to the BluePrint podcast, where we talk all things business, all things kingdom, all things communication, all things sales, all the things. Today, we're going to talk about a topic that I am super passionate about. This is like, if I had like a bread and butter, this is my bread and butter. My bread and butter, obviously, for people that have been following me for a little bit, they know it's sales, right? Like I've built my real estate business off of sales and communication, a sales process, all that stuff. We have, the course in BluePrint, which is probably the foundation of what BluePrint was built off of. I shouldn't say probably, it is, which is the Kingdom Closers series, and that's where our 8-step sales process is and all that stuff. So super passionate about communication for so many different reasons. Not just because communication is, like the biggest money maker in business. That's one thing that I truly believe, though. I think out of all the skill sets that you could have, if you can acquire the skill set to communicate effectively, your ability to make income is like 20 times higher than any other type of skill. I would rather have the ability to communicate more than any other skill set, more than being good at underwriting, being good at analyzing a deal, being good at having a good eye for what should happen on a fix and flip. Like, I would rather be able to communicate effectively over every single skill set, because I believe not only is that the skill set that is going to make you the most money, and if you go back and look at every single industry, the people that make the most money are the salespeople. It's like you go into on a car lot, and the salespeople are making $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, $500,000 a year, and the people behind the desk are making their $50,000, $60,000 maybe. So it's in every single industry, the people that are making the most money are the salespeople, and it's because this communication skill set is the most important skill set that you can get. And if you master the skill set of communication, you'll never have a problem making money in any industry. I was just at a resort a week or so ago, and I'm looking at all the different workers there, right? Like you got, the people giving everybody drinks, the people passing out towels, the people making food and all that stuff. But obviously they're getting paid a salary. Okay. All the workers at the resort, they're getting paid some sort of salary, but the main way that they make their money is through tips. Right. And I could tell there's the people on the resort, like the workers on the resort, that eat the most. I literally see people in the resort like wearing really nice stuff. Like they're wearing like Versace glasses, like nice watches, the workers. And I'm like, dang, these people are eating. And it was the people that I analyzed that were the best at communicating their service and having good customer service and everything. But it was the communication skill that was allowing them to make a lot of tips, and I could just tell that. And it actually got me fired up. I'm like, yo, let me put on one of these suits. Let me put on one of these suits and start serving people. Let me get some tips. It's actually funny because, as you guys know, if you guys have been listening to me for a while, before I got into real estate, I was a full-time barber. And when I first got into the barbershop, obviously I was not that good at cutting hair. I was cutting hair for a little bit, like in college and in high school and stuff like that, but just kind of like a hustle on the side. But I started full-time in a barbershop without really any professional experience. I didn't go to barber school, no nothing. What up, gang? Wanted to take a quick sec to thank you for tuning in to the BluePrint podcast. If you did not know already, this podcast is recorded live with our free real estate community, where people are able to chat in a side chat, ask me questions, hang out with each other. They also have access to the free Facebook group and a bunch of different other tools. But if you want to be a part of that free community, I need you to go to wholesalewithmike.com or hit the link below. Let's get back to the pod. When you're cutting hair in the hood, it's actually like a qualification to not have your license. Okay, so like everybody in the barbershop does not have their license. So I never went to barber school, never cut in a professional setting or anything like that. But when I first got into the barbershop, obviously it took me like, maybe a few weeks or a month or so to try kind of get my feet wet and get going and stuff. But once I started getting comfortable in the space, like being comfortable, just with the workers and, the boss and everybody that was at the barbershop and the girls that were helping, hand out towels and the reception and all that stuff. Once I got comfortable with the whole space, it was a wrap because I was able to communicate with my client effectively, more effectively than pretty much any other barber that was in there. And these guys have been cutting hair for like 20 years. And for me, professionally, I just started. I didn't have the sharpest lineup. I didn't have the best fade. I didn't have the best, everybody was doing designs and all that stuff. I could barely do that. Actually, some of my clients, I got in almost a beef one time because I like screwed up some dude's hair. I was supposed to be putting some dye in his beard, right? And it was just the whole entire scene. I'll go into that in a later day. But the moral of the story is because I was able to communicate with the client that I was working with, I was able to be their best friend and give them the best service when it came to communication possible. And I was making pretty much the same amount of money as everybody else in the barbershop. And I was not nearly as good as these guys at cutting hair. They were cutting hair for like 20 years plus. Professionally, I'm talking like hundreds and thousands and tens of thousands of haircuts that they've done over me, right? But it was because I was able to communicate with these people. That's the reason why I was able to keep up with them, if that makes sense, from the jump, which is kind of unheard of. So I remember one of the barbers that was like teaching me a lot of stuff. I used to watch him. I would literally sit there when I didn't have a client at the time. I would be sitting in my barber chair just looking at him, looking at how he's cutting the hair, looking at how he's doing the lineup and everything like that. But I remember he told me one day, he's like, dude, you don't really have a problem here. He's like, I've seen new barbers come in and out of this place, but yeah, your haircuts aren't that good yet, to be completely honest with you, but you don't have a problem because you're able to just talk your way through everything. So it was the ability to communicate. So if you acquire this ability and skill set, you won't have a problem. Right, like you're going to be able to make money in any industry. You know what? I'm curious. I want to see this really quick. Let's see this. Hey Siri. What is the definition of communication? Why the heck isn't she talking back? Come on, man. Crap. Let me just read it off. I thought that was gonna be cool. I thought she was like gonna talk back. Maybe Siri's not failing me today.
Communicating today.
Right? Like, dude, what the heck? Communication. The imparting or exchanging of information or news. Interesting. The imparting or exchanging of information or news. And in this definition, underlined is exchanging. Oh gosh, this means we got to go figure out what the definition of exchanging is. Oh, this is good. This is good. The definition of exchanging is to give something and receive something of the same kind in return. Oh gosh, so that's the definition of exchanging, right? So it's the exchanging of information or news. That means it has to go both ways. Like communication has to happen both ways. It has to be like said, but it also has to land and it has to be felt and it has to be heard. So it has to be said and it has to be received at the same time. Right? So that's our goal. So I want to break this down. If we aren't able to do that, there's problems. And I want you guys to think back to any problem that you could think back to in life. Like problems in your own life, problems in the world, like any problem. Does not have to be about business, can just be about anything. Wars, drug problems, problems with a spouse, problems with friends, like any problem that you could think of, the root of the problem is miscommunication. Like, if you really think about this, isn't that freaking interesting? The root of every single problem is miscommunication. That's why I'm so passionate about it, because it's like, not only is the root of it, like, let's just say you're not making money in your business, I can almost guarantee that if the skill set of communication got elevated, that problem might not go away, but the problem would definitely be alleviated. Like maybe your problem is something else. Maybe your problem is bookkeeping or something like that. But I guarantee if you just keep on making more money, then you can go hire a bookkeeper to get it done. You make more money by being able to communicate. It's like the driver of every single business. Yo, I want to thank you for tuning into this clip from the BluePrint podcast. If you did not catch the whole entire podcast, I need you to go back to the channel and look at the podcast that we dropped earlier this week. Let's get back to the clip. So our ability to communicate, to the degree that we have a good ability to communicate, will be the degree that we have less problems. Okay? And that's what we're paid to do as salespeople. We're paid to solve people's problems. And we can only solve somebody's problem by effectively communicating. But if we go back to the topic of like all the problems in the world, like let's think about it. Let's think about throw in the side chat some problems that you guys can think of right now. Follow up. That's a problem. Definitely a problem. MJ, let's think about like that's 100% a problem, and I'm going to get there. Let's think about some worldly problems. Like in real time, think about some events, some events that are going on right now. Tim says war. Right? There's always war. Every single war has been the root of every single war has been miscommunication. In some way or form, there has been miscommunication between those countries, those ethnicities, those races, whatever. Every single war has been some sort of miscommunication, if you really think about it. Inflation. At some point, there was some miscommunication, right? Because here's what you want in just in finances, right? With their worldly finances, you want to be somewhere in the middle. Now, obviously, inflation is going to happen at a point, and what do they call the other one it's definitely not called deflation, but I'm going to call it deflation for the sake of example. Like there always has to be, that up and down, but where you really want to be in the middle, right? So if we could just hang out in the middle somewhere, it would be good. But what happens is miscommunication happens. Miscommunications between people that are in politics. There was a miscommunication with the way that a law was written, right? There was a miscommunication. There's always some sort of miscommunication that leads to a problem. Drugs, like you go on Mass Ave and you look at everything, like all the drug addicts on the side of the road. I think about this, like I'm just like I just analyze human beings. I'm like, dang, that is so sad. How the heck did that happen? Like, how the heck do we have hundreds of people on Mass Ave just like zombied out with literally like, I'm not even going to go into details. You can go on Mass Ave and go see yourself. But like, how do we have all these human beings just hurting so much? It's just miscommunication. I'm saying miscommunication for the individual that's on the side of the road. There was something that happened earlier on in his life. Maybe there was a parent that never communicated. Maybe there was a parent that treated them bad, and that's the reason why they got hooked on drugs, right? But the problem was the parent never effectively communicated why they were feeling the way that they felt. And maybe that kid would have ended up having some sort of revelation to, wow, I feel so bad that my parents had to go through that as a kid. I want to make sure that I never go through that and that my kids never go through that. Like there was never that communication. There was just miscommunication. When that person was a kid, maybe the parents were super mean, beating them, never communicating with them. Every single time they would communicate with them, it would be through yelling and screaming and cursing. That's miscommunication. Now all of a sudden, dude's 27 years old, hooked on drugs on the side of the road. So the root of the problem was miscommunication. Kendrick and Drake. Who's in the side chat? Who's following the Kendrick and Drake beef? Brendan said, trying not to, but it's hard. You can't miss. Ali said me. Um, let's think about this. Human beings don't want to be in beefs. Like the deep down, we don't want to have. MJ said K Dot killed him. I agree. It's a bad month to be a light skin. That's what I've been saying. Deep down, we don't want to be beefing with each other, right? Like we don't. Ali says, "Don't lie to yourself." See, no. Here's what's happening in the side chat. Everybody's miscommunicating. I didn't want to get here. Like I just opened a can of worms. But deep down, what I'm trying to say is, we don't want to be beefing with each other. That like deep down, we don't. Deep down, you don't want to go to bed knowing that somebody might pop off with some skeletons that are in your closet the next day. Like you don't want that feeling. As much as like your pride tells you you want to win and you want to do this and you want to do that, like deep down you really don't. You would rather sleep at night. You would rather have a comfortable sleep. I can imagine both Kendrick and Drake are not sleeping well at night. Kendrick is up thinking, racing in his mind, how do I kill this dude? How do I like you see what I'm saying? Drake is thinking in his mind like, dang, what the heck could this dude say next? Like all summer long, I'm gonna be walking around in the streets and somebody's gonna be yelling, "A minor," like it's just gonna be bad. So like you don't want that, right? But guess who won in this whole entire situation? I want somebody to put in the side chat who won, who really won this whole beef. Brennan said the record labels, that's a fact. Tim said the media, that's a fact. Al said the fans. Al, I agree and I disagree. There have been people that have gotten into beefs with their own friends because of this beef. Like fans have gotten into beefs with their own friends because of this beef. So it's like, Tim says media. I agree. The media is just eating all this stuff up. Here's who I think won the whole entire beef. J. Cole won the beef. Because he was able to effectively communicate how he was really feeling. Like how he was deeply feeling inside. So here's how the timeline went. Kendrick drops a song that pretty much said, you know, I am the one. There's no big three. There's no J. Cole. There's no Drake. It's just me. Okay. Then the next song comes out and it's J. Cole. And I'm a big J. Cole fan. Like J. Cole's in my top 3. And when he dropped that song, I was thinking to myself, like he dropped a song dissing Kendrick, and I'm like, yo, this doesn't feel like J. Cole. This doesn't feel real. His communication right now doesn't feel genuine. It doesn't feel real. 3 days later, Homeboy goes on a stage that he was performing on, and he was like, yo, something just doesn't sit right in my spirit. I don't feel well about this. I don't feel like this doesn't feel well to me. I think I need to apologize. And to be honest, have your shots. He told Kendrick, he was like, my chin's open. You can punch me in the face. I don't care. And I can imagine the feeling that J. Cole had after that, to where he was just like, you know, I don't care. Have your way. Like, whatever. You guys can win. I'll take the back seat and I can rest. Homeboy is sleeping on his pillow. Now, all the hip-hop fans are going to be telling me, well, nah, that's whack. It's a hip-hop beef and da-da-da-da-da. Nah, bro. Like, I'm taking peace of mind all day over winning a hip-hop beef. But anyways, I say all that to say, the only one that was able to effectively communicate was J. Cole. Like, deep down, effectively communicate. And he's the one that's going to be able to sleep at night without thinking, dang, what is somebody going to say next? What's going to happen? No. Dude, he's good. Like, he's just chilling. Okay? So all these problems that we have, like, that are earthly problems, that are worldly problems, that our own problems, that are our own insecurities, that are our own problems in our marriages and in our relationships with our kids. It's just like the root of the problem is miscommunication. And Brendan's on my team as a acquisition manager. What is one of the things that I've been saying over the past like couple weeks? Like, we don't want these areas. What are these areas? While we're communicating with sellers and while we're like having conversations and trying to get deals done, what is the number one thing that a salesperson can never have?
We don't want to be speaking with the seller and hang up the phone and then think to ourselves, oh shit, I should have mentioned that. So we don't want any gray areas when we hang up the phone.
Gray areas. Gray areas, that's it. MJ says Kendrick had much more memorable communication, tone, pitch, conviction. I agree. Like when it comes down to the actual rap battle itself, he communicated way better. He had a better game plan. He had a better all the things, right? There was, to our point that me and Brendan are talking about right now, the gray areas. He had much less gray areas than anybody else in the whole entire thing. I'm saying like who's able to have the most peace? In my opinion, the person who has the most peace is the person who wins, whether it's you win the game or not, like points wise. Whoever has the most peace is going to be the one that wins in my mind. And the person who has the most peace is usually the person that communicates the most effectively. Because I guarantee every human feels this way. You feel kind of bad at some points about something. Like you feel some sort of something just, like J. Cole said, something just doesn't sit right in your spirit when you're in a fight. There's pride in us that want to win. We want to we want to accomplish it. But every single human being has this feeling in them that like, yo, something about this just don't feel right. But 90% of us don't know how to communicate that because our pride overtakes it. Right? So it's like, if we're able to just effectively communicate that, then we won't have an issue. But to Brendan's point, okay, we've been talking about this in our sales meetings and stuff in our business. And one of the biggest things, the worst thing for a salesperson to ever have after they get off of the phone is a gray area. Meaning thinking like, dang, where am I in this call? Like, where am I in this sale? What should I have done? What could I have done different? How are they thinking? Are they going to answer my call, the next call? Am I going to get this deal done? That is the worst feeling as a salesperson. What up, gang? Wanted to take a quick sec to thank you for tuning in to the BluePrint podcast. If you did not know already, this podcast is recorded live with our free real estate community, where people are able to chat in a side chat, ask me questions, hang out with each other. They also have access to the free Facebook group and a bunch of different other tools. But if you want to be a part of that free community, I need you to go to wholesalewithmike.com or hit the link below. Let's get back to the pod. So as a salesperson, instead of being in a gray area, you want to be in the black and white area. It's like, no, we're going to over communicate so that we know exactly what is going on and where this lead is at and how this thing needs to get closed and if this thing is ever going to get closed. Like, that's what we want as salespeople. We want to make sure everything is laid out on the table. Because if not, we're going to be stuck there thinking, well, dang, like, what could have happened? And here's what happens to salespeople. Salespeople will start getting, they'll start having insecurities of their own, and their confidence will start going down the drain, and their momentum will start going down the drain. And that is the main thing that salespeople need. Salespeople need momentum. They need confidence. They need all this to keep the ball rolling, to keep the snowball effect going. So when you hang up the phone, especially on a lead that you think should have been closed, and for some reason you're sitting there like, yo, what the heck happened? Why didn't I get that deal? Like, what is going on? What am I doing wrong? That's a good thing, for one, because you're able to go back and kind of analyze it and learn. So I want to congratulate people that are getting to that point, because most people don't even get to that point. They just like hang up the phone and they're like, all right, whatever, they go on to the next one. The people that are able to hang up the phone and realize like, damn, there's something else that I could have done. Like, what happened? At least you're able to see that so that you can go seek some advice, or go get some coaching, or go take some sales training, or go just even train yourself up and listen to the call and figure out what you could have done better. That's what we need to be doing. And by the way, nobody, the best salesperson is not perfect. The best salesperson on this earth is not perfect. So even myself, I listen to every single one of my calls. I listen to all the YouTube videos that I do. What we're recording right now, I will listen to this again and I'll be like, dang, bro, you shouldn't have done that. However, the worst feeling in sales is that feeling like, damn, I don't know where this leads at. I don't know where I went wrong. It's just so much uncertainty. There's so much uncertainty, and our jobs is to get our prospect from a level of uncertainty right here as being zero certainty to a level of 100% certainty right here. But it's not just our prospect. We need to get ourselves there too. It's like getting ourselves and the prospect on the same page so that certainty is at a 100% level. So that there's no gray areas, no questions of what's going on. And you do that through effectively communicating. Because here's what will happen, right? Like, and this is like in an argument with your friend, in an argument with your spouse, in maybe even a sales environment with a prospect. One of the main lines that you'll get, and this is when you know that there was definitely some sort of miscommunication, when you guys are hashing it out later on. Maybe you know what we'll do all the time? If there is, especially I did this in the beginning, if there was ever a lead that I saw that got sold and I just missed the opportunity, I would call the seller back and I'd be like, hey, like, help me understand. We were talking for, a few months, and I was hoping we could do a deal together. Like, where did we go wrong so that we can learn from this and we can help our next clients out? And it would typically go like this. Well, when we talked, I thought that you meant this, or I thought that this is what was going to happen. I thought that you were going to follow up in a certain amount of time, and I just went with somebody else. Right? Same thing if you got in an argument with a friend or a spouse. As you guys are making up and you guys are, getting back, building the relationship back, the conversation typically goes, well, I thought that you meant this. I thought when you said it with that tone that you really meant that you were like super, super mad at me. I didn't realize that it was something that you were going through this whole entire time. If you just let me know in the beginning that you were going through a hard time at home and that kind of came into our friendship, like, I would have completely understood and I would have had much more empathy towards it, and your reaction wouldn't have got so much of a reaction out of me. Like, that's how those conversations usually go, and we can avoid that because sometimes the arguments and everything is detrimental. Like, everything that you do is a seed. Every single conversation that you end up having is a seed, and the harvest comes in some form of fashion. So, like, we want to avoid having, any miscommunications and any arguments, because at the end of the day, you don't know what the harvest is going to be later on. So we want to make sure that we're having the most fruitful conversations that we could potentially have, and we are not perfect. So these conversations that we have that aren't fruitful, that are, that do lead to arguments and stuff like that, we want to be able to learn from them and go back and see, hey, here's what we should have done. And that's all getting better at sales is about. It's having conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation after conversation, and every single time you're done with that conversation, you think back, even the times that you had a good conversation, you think back to the conversation and you think, hey, what could I have done better? What could I have done to eliminate any more gray areas in that conversation. And when you're able to do that, that's when you're able to really stack up your skill sets. That's when you get 1% better every single day. I say this all the time. When I was first starting out in sales, I would physically record myself, and me and my wife would sit in bed at the end of every single day and would listen and would physically watch my calls. I'd look at my mannerisms and I would hear my voice, and we would do that every single night. And then even to this day, like all my content that I post on YouTube, I'm one of the main, the like last line of defense on our media team, right? So I have to like, I'll rewatch a lot of the videos. At this point, a lot of the videos, like my team already knows what to put out and what I like and stuff like that. But a lot of them, I'll have to review at some point, and I'll be listening to myself, and I'll be watching my mannerisms and all this stuff. And time after time, if you go back to my YouTube channel like 2 years ago, and then you fast forward to maybe a YouTube video we just dropped last week, it's like night and day. You could tell that there's been work that has been done in the communication, in being on the camera, in all this stuff over the course of the last 2 years. But it's just being intentional with how we're getting better. Yo, I want to thank you for tuning into this clip from the BluePrint podcast. If you did not catch the whole entire podcast, I need you to go back to the channel and look at the podcast that we dropped earlier this week. Let's get back to the clip. So good. This is why communication is my favorite topic.
One of my favorite things, Mike, is the idea of the open-ended question, which I've been training myself to avoid asking questions that are asking for a yes and no answer. So any question can be made into an open question. And it's been great doing that. What can you tell me? Tell me about this. Tell me about that. Tell me about.
Yeah. That's so important. Because if we ask like a yes or no question, we don't get the real answer.
Right. And it's just one word answer.
Exactly. And the real answer is not a one-word answer. So I brought this example up before of when you ask somebody, hey, how are you? They just say, I'm good. But then you ask them again, hey, how are you really? Then you get the whole story. Well, it's been tough at home. My business is like been kicking me in the butt. It's been ... And then you get the whole entire story. So it's like just digging deeper, right? But to your point, when you just get the one-word answer, you never get the actual answer. So here's actually me and you. This is what we've been talking about this week. A perfect roadmap for communication in sales is asking an open-ended question to get them to start talking, and then play out hypothetical situations, and then be direct about those hypothetical situations. Here's how it works. The open-ended question is, tell me what's going on with the property. And then that could go so many different ways. ... Tell me, what are you looking to accomplish? Well, I want to sell the property in the next 30 days, and I want to do this, that, and the other, right? After you get that open-ended question, you got to start playing out some hypothetical situations to make it real, to paint the picture, to get them to start really thinking about what this could look like for them. Okay, so let's just say, we ended up agreeing to a price today, and we close this deal out in the next 30 days or so. What would everything else look like after that? Now you're going to start getting some answers that are like very specific to their current situation. Oh, no. I wouldn't be able to close in the next 30 days. Oh, okay. Well, what would prevent you from closing in the next 30 days? Well, I actually am leaving my job in 30 days, and I would need another 2 weeks after that in order to get all my stuff out of here and move down to Florida. So I'm going to need a little bit more than 30 days. Okay, no problem. Now you're getting the like more of a game plan, right? And then all of a sudden, as you start putting these puzzle pieces together and you have the whole entire puzzle, that's when you have to be direct. That's when you have to like be very specific. That's what I mean by direct. I mean more so, other than direct, it's more so specific. It's like, hey, okay, so why don't we do this? You say that the next 45 days works for you, right? You're leaving your job in 30 days. So why don't we do this? Why don't I send you over an agreement that says that we will close on your property in the next 45 days? That gives you the next 30 days to finish up your job, and then it gives you another 2 weeks to get everything started and all that stuff. And then, we'll agree on a price that pays off your mortgage of $100,000 and nets you somewhere in the range of maybe $80,000 to $100,000, so that you have the down payment for your next house, and you're able to get some travel expenses and put some money aside as well. And we'll just get this thing wrapped up in the next 45 days. So now you're being very specific. Now that's what they're getting married to. Now they're like, oh, wait, yeah, I would do that. That's exactly what I want to do. So here's how the process works. Open-ended, hypothetical, directly specific. Okay? Open-ended questions, hypothetical situations, directly specific about their current situation and how that is going to get solved. If you do those three things in a call, you won't have any gray areas. If you squeeze the juice as much as possible out of the fruit, then you will not have any gray areas, because somebody's going to hear what I'm saying right now, and they're going to get on the phone and they're going to ask an open-ended question, then they're going to say something hypothetical, then they're going to say something direct, and they're going to do it right in that order, and they're only going to do one question, one hypothetical situation, and one direct specific statement. And that's all they're going to do. No, it's like, it takes more than that. You got to dig deep. You got to squeeze the fruit as much as possible to get all the juice out, right? So it might be multiple open-ended questions. It might be multiple hypothetical situations. It might be multiple times you have to go back and say something very direct and specific. And when they tell you no, you got to go back to number 1 and 2. It's like, this is a process. You got to keep on working it. Okay, remember, you got to get the whole entire puzzle done.
I was just going to say that, yeah, to your point, it's true. And there's kind of a formula. The formula being, with the open-ended question, you get more than just the one-word response. You get an opportunity to actively listen. Once you're actively listening, you can validate. The validation is basically repeating back to them what they said in your own words, expressing to them that you understand what they're saying.
Mm-hmm.
At that point, they'll feel better about the conversation. Then another open-ended question. You know what I mean? So that formula is really a beautiful thing.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. It just leaves no gray areas, bro. Because here's what people do. People will just ask the open-ended questions and kind of leave it as it is, and they won't get the full puzzle. And then once they don't have the full puzzle, they get off of the phone and they're trying to figure out what they're missing. And dude, they could have just got the full puzzle on the phone by just having an in-depth conversation that way. Because once they start opening up, you find opportunities to play out these hypothetical situations.
And you don't really have to be shy to ask these open-ended questions. It's not like we have a degree and we're doctors, but if you're in the office with a doctor, the doctor's never shy about asking you direct questions he needs to know. So just kind of like, you think about it like that, you're asking questions. These are important, topical questions. They're not.
Yes. 100%. That we're going back to the last podcast we dropped where we talked about mindset. Like that's really all it is. People like are so curious on how the heck I get a seller to open up in the first like minute of a call. It's just a mindset. It's like I'm asking the same exact questions as everybody else. It's just the way that my mindset is wired. It comes out on the phone. And it comes out in the form of asking a very confident question that just makes so much sense for the seller to answer. It's the same question pretty much as everybody else. It's just worded different. But it's very easy for sales trainers to just say, yeah, you just got to, it's not about what you say, it's about how you say it, which I agree. I say that statement all the time. But like, how do you change how you say it? You change how you say it by changing your mindset. That's the root of it. The root of it is the mindset. So if you didn't watch that podcast, we dropped that last week. Last week? Yeah, we dropped that last week. So go back and watch that podcast. So chat, any questions that you guys got, comments, concerns, objections, all the things. We're going to take this time for the next, 10 or so minutes to open up to some questions. So chat, this is the beauty of having this podcast like live and private. So for those of you that are on YouTube watching this right now, we have a whole entire Zoom. You're probably this is what you're probably thinking. Mike might be talking to himself right now. He's talking about people in the chat. He literally might be making this stuff up. No, there's literally people in our side chat on a Zoom asking questions, commenting, engaging. And this is everybody in here is part of our free community, our free wholesaling community. If you want to be a part of that community, go to wholesalewithmike.com and you'll get the notifications with these Zoom links and all that type of stuff. But this is where we hang out. This is where the community hangs out. Everybody knows each other. Everybody hangs out, does the thing, does business, does life together. So come in here and hang out and be a part of the live private podcast as you'll get an opportunity to hang out with people in the side chat, ask questions, and all that stuff. Go ahead.
As we say, yesterday we had a good example of a communication where you actually only had maybe 15 seconds to communicate with a guy who was probably very frustrated receiving a bunch of calls. His house was up for auction at the end of next week or whatever.
Yeah.
And he was angry. So you encountered like an angry, depressed guy, and you had to make a friend in 15 seconds. So that was good. You talked for a few minutes and agreed to talk again.
Yeah, that was tough. Because everybody else that has been communicating with him has been communicating with him the wrong way. So, and on top of that, his personality trait needs to be communicated with a very certain way. But immediately when this dude, so we got this lead that came into the system. In the notes, it was like, guy has an auction next week and he doesn't want to talk to anybody. That's pretty much like what it said in the notes. So I already knew that going into it. I had my first conversation with him, and the first conversation kind of went the same way the notes went. Guy was like, I'm getting foreclosed on, an auction is next week, I can't do anything, bye. Like, I barely even got a chance to get a word out. But I didn't stop because three things. We went over this in BluePrint this week. Three main things that you want to get as a salesperson is the ability. Actually, I'm going to say this. There's three. I would say this. If you do these three things on every single call, every single meeting, every single action that you do in business, you'll more than likely have success. The first thing is you do whatever it takes to get a yes. So you don't take no for an answer. Okay? The second thing is you do stuff with the highest, most positive, optimistic energy that you could. Okay? The third thing is do all this stuff without breaking any integrity. So if you do those three things, which is very hard to do all three of them at the same time, a lot of people will do number one, but they're not keeping integrity. A lot of people will keep their integrity, but they won't have good energy. Like it's. I'm not going to say it's easy to do all three, but when you do get all three, that's when you see some major success. So, for this guy that we're talking about that was going through an auction, he did not want to talk to me at all. He didn't want to talk to anybody. If Jesus called him, he would have hung up the phone. Like, but I called this guy 6 more times. Literally, I'm not even lying. I think I probably still have it on my phone. I'm gonna show you guys proof. Let's see. You guys see a bunch of outgoing calls. Finally, I got him on. I got him in our system on a different phone number. So on the same phone number, this is 5 times that I called him. And then I called him again like 3 different times from different phone numbers in our CRM. But that's number one. That's just like not taking no for an answer. Like, dude, I know this guy needs help. And he told me off the rip, the first First thing he says, he didn't even give me a chance to really talk. He says, I can't sell my property. I don't have any equity. I owe too much. I can't sell it. I'm getting foreclosed on. Bye. That's it. I was like, okay, well, I'm not taking that for an answer. Like, I got to get on the phone with him. I call him 5 times on my personal phone. I call him 3 times on other numbers. Finally, he answers. I had 15 seconds to actually talk to this guy. Here's what I said. I forget this guy's name, but let's call him Brian. I was like, Brian, this is Mike. I just called you about 7 times. Hey, so I want to let you know I buy houses with no equity. That's my job. My job is to find people that are potentially getting foreclosed on, and I buy their houses with no equity. So before you go ahead and hang up, hear me out for a second. And boom, he made a friend. All of a sudden, his tone started coming down, and da 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 da. We had a conversation, and we now have a follow-up call. Like, but he like, I promised anybody that he was talking to, nobody even got that far. He was every single person. Nope, can't sell it. Bye. Click. But he needed to be communicated with in a very specific way that time. And when we got off the phone, Brendan, what did I hang on the phone with him for? Maybe 2 minutes, 3 minutes, which was like an hour for that guy. And we have a call today, so I got to actually call him right after this. But he needed to be communicated with a certain way.
I have it if you want the first 30 seconds where you keep him on the phone.
We'll release that in the seller call vault and BluePrint.
Nice.
Actually, you know what's dope? I can't wait to release this call. The call from the lead that we're working right now. I'm not going to mention anything about it, but there's a lead that we're working that we're like in competition with 10 other wholesalers in the area. Gosh, that call is going to be great. We're going to put that in the BluePrint vault as well. There's a lot of calls in the BluePrint vault. There's probably like 30, 40, 50 calls in that vault. Communication, man. Communication. Let's work on our communication skills this week. Let's do the thing. Let's get better. You don't have to take no for an answer. Get past the smoke screen. Because that's exactly what it is. Every single no is just a smoke screen. So I just going into it, right? And this is where the mindset thing comes in. I automatically go into every single conversation thinking that there's a yes behind the smoke screen that they're giving me. I'm pretty crazy for this. Like in every situation, I am just thinking that there's a yes somewhere behind the smoke screen. There has to be in my brain. And if I do whatever it takes and it ends up resulting into a no, then whatever, I'm on to the next lead. But I guarantee if you go into every single call with that mindset, then you'll convert at a higher level than anybody else in your industry, in your area, in your market, whatever it is. Because nobody's willing to do that. Everybody just takes the no as, oh, it is what it is. I'm on to the next one. No. I am going to be the one that squeezes the fruit as much as possible and gets all the juice. I want all the juice. By the way, if you don't, then that's fine. If you do not want all the juice, then that's completely fine. Because there's companies out here, right, that let's just say, 10 pretty dang good leads comes across 2 different companies. One company is a company that just doesn't take no for an answer. They're squeezing the juice out of the whole entire fruit. They're getting everything they could possibly get out of the situation. They might get 6 out of 10 opportunities. And the other company might get 2 or 3. The other company is just kind of going with the regular process, and they're just like, whatever, we might not be a good fit. All right, bye. They're going to end up getting deals. They're going to be successful. If they're consistent, because consistency comes along with this as well. So they're going to get deals. They're going to make stuff happen. But at the end of the day, which one do you want to be? This is why Tom Brady kept winning. It was sick. Go watch I keep talking about this. Go watch The Dynasty and go watch how sick Tom Brady was. This man was sick. Almost to the point where I was like, that don't even seem enjoyable. Because it was like he would win a Super Bowl And he would even say it. The people would ask him, what's your favorite ring?" He'd be like, "The next one." I'm like, "Yo, this guy is sick." Like he's just not taking no for an answer. He just keeps on going and going and going and going and going. So I was having a conversation with somebody the other day, and I'm like, "Man, Pat Mahomes is getting pretty close." Like I think if Pat Mahomes stayed on the trajectory that he's at, and he stayed in the league as long as Tom Brady, he might surpass Tom Brady in rings. And then me and my homie were having the conversation, and we are like, "Dude, like that's cool, but at the end of the day, to go through that many teams, Tom Brady had so many different teams, so many different like there was literally seasons of different teams that he had. To go through all that and to just keep on going the next day and keep on getting up and keep on getting up and keep on doing and keep on, it's like with everybody coming at you to take you down. That's you got to be sick for that. Like you literally got to be sick. And when you're starting out and you're winning and stuff, everybody's jacked up. Everybody's like, "Yeah, this guy's great. The new guy's here. Somebody's finally gonna beat Tom Brady's rings." But once you keep on winning, you start becoming the target. You start becoming you start becoming the person everybody wants to beat, and that's hard to keep up. That's hard to maintain. Tim says the roast of Tom Brady was hilarious. That really was hilarious. That was. I watched the whole entire thing on my way back from Mexico. It was good. It was good. We're gonna talk about that one day. Comedy.
I heard you don't want to watch it with your little kids though.
Oh no, yeah, it was very vulgar. Very, very vulgar.
Is he built his brand. He worked hard to build a brand of excellence. So did it hurt him at all? I didn't see it yet.
This is interesting, bro, because I think we're I think we're in the age that and I'm not saying that this is acceptable because at the end of the day, it says in the Bible not to curse each other out or anything like that, right? So it's like I don't believe in this, but I think we're getting to an age in life where like the cancel culture is kind of going away a little bit in the sense that people are putting up with more stuff. I don't think that it's right because at the end of the day, it's like you know stuff can grow really rapidly and get really toxic if you allow it to. You know what I mean? But it's like people that are wise can watch that with a filter and understand like the funny parts of it and enjoy. Here's what I enjoy the most out of comedy. I I listen to comedy. A lot of men of faith do not listen to that stuff because the Bible says not to curse and all this stuff. But I'm like, dude, I'm listening to it with a filter of all that stuff, and I am listening to it intentionally for the communication, like for the way that they are telling a story. You see what I mean? Um, but the problem, Brendan, is most people aren't able to do that. You see what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's tough. I think I wouldn't say it diminishes his legacy, dude. What he did is stamped. Actually, there was some really dope stuff that happened at that roast, like Bill Belichick and um, Robert Kraft, made up and had a shot together. Like that was pretty cool to see because Bill Belichick is just so stubborn, and it was almost like they made up and they were homies again. That was pretty cool. But to your point, like some of the things that were said were cringe. Like sometimes I cringe at some of that stuff. Like, dang, all right, bro, that's still you're going a little bit too far. But at the end of the day, I like stand up comedy. I like comedy for the storytelling aspect of it. And one of my favorite people in the world is Dave Chappelle because how good he is at telling stories. So I will literally watch, and it's vulgar, and I definitely I would never listen to that or watch that with my kids when I have kids. Like, absolutely not. But I'm intentionally watching something like that to look at the way that he's communicating, look at the way that he has the punchline at the end, look at the way that he communicates by coming around full circle to his message, look at the way that he's telling stories, look at his mannerisms and everything. Like I'm watching all that intentionally. Not to sit there and be super entertained. But even I was thinking about this morning. This is funny that we're talking about this. Even back like when I was first going to a lot of like masterminds and events and stuff like that. Yeah, I get like, especially in the beginning, you're learning information and stuff, but there was a switch. Once I started like really operating my business at a pretty high level, whenever I would go to one of these masterminds, instead of really going there for the content itself, like, hey, I want to learn how to go build a wholesaling company or whatever, it changed. I started going there to watch the speakers and see how they're speaking, see how they're performing, and see how everybody's operating the event and all that type of stuff. It's a little bit different. So it's along the lines of that. But I think people need to grow up, bro. I think it's like, dude, all right, like he said a curse word, okay, bro, like you're gonna be okay. You just see what I'm saying? Like, everything's gonna be okay. Everybody's not perfect. Like, and I even myself have tried not to curse as much as I could, as much as I have in the past, or as much as I do. But not everybody has that conviction. Not everybody has to have that conviction. So the fact that Tom Brady's going up there saying wild things and people are saying wild things about him, it's like, dude, they just don't have that conviction. Tim says people are too sensitive these days. I agree. MJ says hearing a cuss word won't make you melt. I agree. I 100% agree. So good. All right, fam. This was another episode of the BluePrint podcast. We're going to be doing this again next Saturday. After next Saturday, we're going to go back to Thursdays, but on YouTube every Thursday. No, I'm sorry. Every Monday or Tuesday, I believe. I got to check back with my media team and see, but every Monday or Tuesday, we're going to be dropping these videos. So again, if you're on YouTube right now and you want to get in these Zooms and be in the side chat and hang out, go down to the link below or just go to wholesalewithmike.com and we'll catch y'all on the next pod. Peace.